Fuck up, Tommy. Every girl I broke fight to me. Every girl long idea go and go live up. Go live up, him the police specialist. Girl pussy sick, come check me with it. With the bump up sick from 1986 down at 2000 potency, check me with it. All the pussy want is a new gear stick. Pussy tight smooth girl we give show me Chris. Pussy dripping and the pussy want a gas stick. Pussy yellow shot like Kobe electric. Chantama hood to cut down the voltage. From 125 right down to 0.6. In a one gear where your pussy tongue stick.
How do you like my new intro? I think that's going to be my new intro. I like that. I like that song. I'm not going to tell anyone the name of it. You're going to have to Shazam that if you want to hear it. If you want to hear more of that song. But it's pretty good. I like it. I found it the other day. And, I've just been playing it on repeat. What's up, everyone? Happy fucking Monday. 8/11 on a Monday night. Doing my show. Doing my thing. I will be honest right off the top. I thought that this was going to be a pretty short episode because I didn't have much to talk about, and honestly, I didn't really want to do it. But here I am, and as I started typing in things to talk about tonight, I just kept adding and adding and adding to the list of things to fucking go over. So here we are. A little unusual, This is unusual in the fact that this used to be the time for Gun Shop Guys, Monday nights at 8 p.m. And now it's been, 6 or 7 weeks without an episode of Gun Shop Guys. And as much as I miss those two, Vinny and Stan, seeing them every Monday, I don't really miss, I'll be honest, I don't really miss that at all. I told Vinny right from the start of that show that Mondays were just a shit show for me to try and get to. It always sucked trying to get out. I mean, Mondays are a shit show at the post office. They fucking always are. And today was no different. 1 o'clock this afternoon, I get a text message from my supervisor saying, "Hey, someone called. Someone went home sick. Can you help us out on their route?" So I mean, Mondays are always a fucking shit show at the post office, and it was hard enough when I was living in Newmarket, New Hampshire, which so if you draw a line to get from Portsmouth to Brentwood, if you consider it's not a straight line by any means, but if you drew a straight line from Portsmouth, New Hampshire to Brentwood, New Hampshire, Newmarket is on the way. But in order to get, then I moved to Fremont last summer, and then I got to go Portsmouth to Fremont and then backtrack it, and it takes another 15 minutes to get back to Brentwood. So I mean, it's 15 minutes past Brentwood and then 15 minutes back, so it's a half-hour loss right off the top. And I didn't like getting out of work, and because I want to take a shower and whatever, so I didn't like getting out of work, driving all the way to Fremont, take a shower, drive all the way back to Brentwood, do the show, and then drive all the way back to Fremont. And I used to be able to get to Gun Shop Guys at 6:30, 6 or 6:30, and hang out for an hour and a half. But then once I moved to Fremont, it was a struggle some nights to get there by 8. You get out of work at 6 o'clock, and it's 45 minutes to get from Portsmouth to Fremont, and take a shower, and if I want to have something to eat, which I do. So that aspect of Gun Shop Guys, I don't miss. I have no idea what will end up happening in the future. Tammy, that is a great question. So this is not going to make sense to a lot of people, but to Tammy it will, and to my mate Ro it will, because I told her about it. And Tammy, feel free to tell your neighbors. So like I talked about last week, I think, I took on a new route in Portsmouth, and part of this route is a little community of about 250 residents, and mail-wise, it's always been a mess because people just get the wrong mail all the time there. So if you're the type of person who lives in an apartment, then inside of your mailbox, you've probably seen your name on the mailbox. I know Ro, her complex that she lives in. Those mailboxes have these little white things inside the mailbox, and you put your name on that thing. So I am slowly working through, now that this is my route and it's my community to deliver to, I'm going to slowly work through that community, making sure that all of the right names are on all of the mailboxes throughout that community. So that not only so that I'm delivering the right mail, but so that on days when I have the day off or I take vacation or something like that, hopefully whoever delivers the route will also deliver the right mail, and it will cut back on people getting the wrong mail, which is something that happens way more often than it should. And especially in that little community that I deliver to, almost on a daily basis, I get mail saying, return to sender, or doesn't live here anymore, hasn't lived here in 20 years, that type of stuff. So that's what those little white stickers are on your mailbox, Tammy. I got to jump right into my sponsors. I fucked up last week. I took on a new sponsor, and then I totally forgot to mention them last week, which sucked. I felt like shit about that. And he was very nice in his way of letting me know that I forgot, because I did the episode the next day the episode dropped, and rather than be like, hey man, what the fuck happened or anything like that, he just went back to our Instagram exchange back and forth. And thank you, Tammy. I will do my best for your little community. Rather than say anything mean, he went back to our Instagram exchange and just liked my last message. That was it. Just liked my last message, and I was like, motherfucker. So we'll start off with that new sponsor, which is 4HM Clothing. If you just, it's 4hmclothing.com. It's also, if you just Google, it's the first result, 4hmclothing.com. They got a bunch of great stuff there. T-shirts, masks, hats. Jesus Christ, does he sell shoes too? There's shoes listed here. Yeah, 4HM's shoes. So he sells shoes, and they actually look really cool. But if you go to 4hmclothing.com, any order over $50, enter offer code adulting, you'll get 10% off your entire order. So there, that is my newest sponsor. And he's got so many fucking cool clothes on here. Let's see here. Here's shop. Here, let me share my screen so that all the watching people can see it. Do this quickly. There we go. All right, yeah, now we're talking. Yep. So he's got women's clothes, he's got men's clothes, hoodies, masks, like I said, zip up hoodie, all sorts of colors and everything. So let's see here. One of them is we are hustle made, home molded, hot mess, hungry, motivated. 4HM. So. Yeah, offer code adulting, 10% off your entire order, over $50. So there's that. AdamandEve.com, obviously my premier sponsor. Been with me for a while now. Jesus Christ, been with me for almost a year. You go to AdamandEve.com, you get 50% off any one item over, 50% off any one item. Sorry. Now I'm getting my sponsors all fucking confused. Any one item, and free shipping. You'll get a welcome pack with like 10 free gifts and all sorts of stuff. So that's AdamandEve.com. Use offer code adulting at checkout there. And REPP Sports. All sorts of whey protein and workout gear, stuff like that. Sleep assistance. They've never sent me a copy, so I don't feel a need to really delve deep into what the fuck they sell, other than it's a lot. It's workout stuff, which I think I mentioned last week, or maybe the week before. I'm not necessarily getting more into working out. I'm getting more into, we've just been running and walking, and we missed last Thursday and Friday because last Thursday I thought that Ro had to be at work at 8, so I set my alarm for 6 o'clock. She set her alarm for 5:30, but we slept right through it. And then my alarm went off at 6, and she was like, oh, fuck, we overslept and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I had my alarm set for 6. And she's like, oh, okay. And then we just, like, we laid in bed for another 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe we made it. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. But then after about 15 minutes, she was like, she said, like, at least you got your cardio in today. All right. So I guess I gave away that secret. And I was like, oh, we still have time to walk. And she was like, no, we don't. I have to go to work. So there was that. And then Friday it was fucking pouring rain here in southern New Hampshire all goddamn day. So we missed those 2 days. But then we picked it right back up this morning. Got up 5:30. Both of us, she got out of bed before me, and then I got up and we went out and did it. Today's interval was 90 second. It was a 5-minute warm up walk, 90-second run, 90-second walk, 3-minute run, 3-minute walk, and then back to 90 seconds. And we did that like 4 times, I think. So yeah, that stuff's not going too bad. I think it's like 3 or 4 more weeks and it'll just be a constant run. It'll be like, 5-minute warm-up walk and then run 2 miles, I think is what it starts out at. And it's like run 2 miles or 20 minutes, right? So you either run 2 miles and then go into your cool down, or you run 20 minutes. If you can't make it to 2 miles in 20 minutes, then you go into your cool down. So I don't remember how much I fucking talked about last time when I talked about the whole running thing. But anyways, like 4 years ago, I was doing the same thing. Like I started with the interval running and worked my way up to a 5K, and I did a 5K, like a legit 5K, and I was satisfied with how I did. I think I came in, if I remember right, I came in 9th in my age group and like 27th overall out of a group of a couple hundred, 200 or 300. So, like the number one spot did his 5K in like 16 minutes. And I think I did mine in like 25 or 26, something like that. So I told Ro that's really my only goal, is to get under that. To do a 5K in under 25 minutes would be nice. So yeah, there's my sponsors. Done. Sponsors are done. What do you guys think is going to happen with Derek Chauvin, whatever the fuck his name is? Because that's coming. I think that's coming tomorrow, if I had to take a guess. Hey, Victor from Crash and Taz. What's up, buddy? I hope you guys listened to my episode not too long ago where I went through my list of top 15 movies after seeing your episode 100. So, Crash and Taz Movie Seller, that's a great podcast that you guys should check out. And my mate checking in, got herself a new profile picture of the two of us yesterday. She played softball, and I went to go watch. That's essentially all I'm willing to do when she plays softball, is watch. I have next to zero interest in joining any of her teams because she's very, her teams are very competitive. Whereas I'm more of a beer league type of guy. I'm more of a, I want to take my beer out on the field while I'm playing in left field type of thing. Not competitive at all. I played softball with Fremont, with the Fremont Rec League, like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a lot of fun, but I certainly wasn't out there to win games or what. In fact, I think that our team, out of like 10 games, we like won one game. So anyways, Derek Chauvin, I think that's coming. I have said it since the beginning. I won't be surprised if he's acquitted in some way. Do I think he should be? Absolutely not. No, I don't. I don't think so at all. Me and Ro have talked about it a bunch over the last 7 months or so. Maybe not a bunch, but I'd say probably maybe once a month it comes up. Once every couple months it comes up. anytime that it hits the news, we've talked about it and talked about the video and talked about all sorts of different things. I did say from the beginning that I thought that he would be acquitted because if this was his training, it doesn't matter, morally right or not, if the training is put your fucking knee on someone's neck, which I am certain any department that was training that as of last May has changed that policy by now. I would hope so, anyways. But from what I understand, it's not like George Floyd was the first person to die with a police officer's knee on their neck. But I won't be surprised at all if he's acquitted, and that will be a shit show because you know what's coming. You know, if they find him not guilty, there's gonna be fucking riots. There's gonna be cities burning to the ground, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know. Maybe just me as a dumb middle-aged white guy in New Hampshire. That doesn't make sense to me. I understand peaceful protests. And I love peaceful protests. It's one of our amendments. It's one of our rights here in America is the right to peaceful protest. I fucking love it. I love people that exercise any right that they have. You know, you have a right to free speech. You should be able to say whatever you want. If someone punches you in the mouth for talking shit, well, then that's on you. You know, maybe you should adjust how maybe you should retrain your inside voice as to what you're willing to say out loud. But you know, right to free speech, right to keep and bear arms. One of the fucking, I think it was CNBC or CSNBC, one of those ones, C-SPAN or something like that, had a post on Facebook the other day because they've like figured it out now. Now they know they can't do a poll because as soon as it gets into the gun community is going to take over that poll. The gun community is going to share it around Facebook to all of their gun friends. And when they ask a stupid question like, should assault weapons be banned? The gun community is going to get a hold of that post, vote no. And, you know, their results are going to be like 5% of the people said, yes, they should be banned. And 95% said no. So they readjusted the way to ask the same question, which was, what do you think is the solution to gun problems or something like that? And I commented and said, put a gun in the hand of every American instead of stimulus checks. Put a gun in the hand of everyone in America because an armed society is a polite society. Just like I just said with your right to free speech, if you want to say something dumb, and you get popped in the mouth, well, then that's on you, and that's just you'll have to figure that out. If you want to pull a gun out in a mall because you think that you're going to shoot everyone, and you get 90 rounds back at you, well, I think that might curb the mass shootings. There's a lot of, how do I put this? There's a lot of examples of legally armed people, legally armed concealed carriers, stopping mass shootings, but that shit never makes the news. You know, like if someone, and you know, if no one ends up getting hurt except for the bad guy, you know, if fucking one bad guy walks into a mall or a school or fucking whatever he's gonna walk into, and he's got a gun and someone shoots him, whether it's just a normal civilian like me or a police officer, and shoots them before they can do any damage, it rarely makes the news. And if it does make the news, it's just a quick little blip, right? It's never, you know, they're never calling for policy change or anything like that. So like imagine if let's live in an alternate dimension for a moment in Florida back in 2017 when that douchebag went into the school and shot up some kids. I think he killed like 17 kids or whatever in that high school. Let's live in an alternate dimension where he's going in the door that the school resource officer is also at, and this school resource officer sees this guy walking up with guns drawn and just immediately pulls his gun, you know, says stop, freeze, whatever he says, hands in the air, and then this guy doesn't comply, and this officer puts a round through his fucking brain skull. and then he's dead. If the story makes the news at all, it's just a real quick. Someone went to a school today with a gun, and the police shot him and stopped the whole thing. And then, you know, there's never a call for policy change. There's never a call for anything to change. So, but anyways, back to George Floyd. Right before I started the show tonight, I wanted to know if they had come to a verdict yet. Now, I assume they haven't because I haven't seen anything about rioting yet. So I Google Derek Chauvin verdict, and what I get back, first result, is from CNN, and it's about the jury. And this entire article is like, it's a huge fucking article. This is not a fucking quick 2-minute read. It profiles the entire jury. It's like there's 5 white men and 2 black women and, you know, 6 fucking whatever. Like it goes through. Okay. Come here. All right. Graphite wants to come and say hi. Okay, buddy. Is that even showing up on the video, I wonder? This is Graphite. He's a little monster. And he apparently wanted to come say hi while I do the show. His fur is soaking in all of my voice. But yeah, so the CNN is profiling the entire jury, which I thought was crazy that they can just. It's supposed to be a jury of your peers. I mean, it feels like a tainted jury to me when CNN and all the other news networks all know everything about the jury members, and they can tell you all this bullshit about them and whatever. Like, just let the system do its thing. Now, Stan and I agree in many regards that the system is broken, and you know, it probably is in a lot of fucking ways. But let the system do its thing. I mean, you know, if I don't know. I think that it's good that there's aspects of good, right? So again, another amendment, freedom of the press. It's good that this was such a big deal, because had it not made the news, you know, had it just been, oh, another black guy gets killed by the police today, obviously. My mate Ro checking in on Graphite. Mommy loves you. Yep, she does, buddy. She'll be here in about an hour or so. Fuck, what was I saying? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So, you know, if it was just a quick, you know, blip on the news, just like the alternate universe that we just lived in for the Florida thing, if it was just a quick blip on the news, maybe nothing happens. You know, maybe Derek Chauvin gets a slap on the wrist, or he gets a write-up at work. Maybe he gets fired. I think that the news reporting it so much, I think that plays a big role into why it's such a big deal. Just like the other Florida guy there was George Zimmerman, and then there was the kid out in Minnesota a couple of years. That was like 8 years ago. I can't remember his name. You know, and now there's this one where the woman pulled her taser and thought that she pulled her gun and thought it was her taser, which blows my mind. I don't really know. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with tasers, but I don't really know how you pull your handgun and think it's your taser when they feel so very different. But adrenaline pumping, maybe she just didn't make that connection. But I would hope. I mean, I don't know what her duty belt system looked like, but I would hope that you know, her taser's on one side of her body and her gun is on the other complete opposite side of her body. I know that when I was a police officer, I went to a call once, and this officer that I went with, it was like a domestic, and he got there and he pulled his taser out in one hand and his handgun out in the other to point at two different people, and I was like, whoa, that's not something I would do, because if you pull your finger on one, there's a good chance you're going to accidentally pull your finger on the other too. So not a move I would make, but I just thought it was very odd that CNN would profile the jury like that. Speaking of my mate Ro and her family, because I know her quite a bit of her family listens to this nonsense every week. I don't know why, but I do appreciate it. Thoughts and prayers to all of you. All I'm going to say is that they lost a loved one this week. So Ro and I are thinking of you, and that's really all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to delve too deep into that. That's not really my area to do that. So, but no, we're thinking of you. But speaking of loss and death, I was thinking about something earlier this week about so I read something a while ago where they think scientists think that at the rate that science and medicine is accelerating, the first person to live to be 1,000 years old might already be alive. They might only be a month or two old, but the first person to live to be 1,000 might already be alive right now. And I was thinking about, it kind of sucks. Like, we have a finite amount of time on this earth, right? For most of us right now, especially in this demographic of people that listen to this, about 25 to 45 years old, for this demo that listens to this show, we're probably going to get about 100 to 120 years on this planet. If you stay relatively healthy and you can avoid accidents and not get deathly ill, most of us get about 100 to 120 years right now. Now, again, where science and medicine is quickly accelerating, who knows? That number could be 400 or 500 years old. I have no idea. But I was thinking about, I think that I was listening to another podcast talking about talking about retirement or something like that. And mostly it was talking about retirement age being like 66 years old right now, right? So one thing that I always kind of think sucks is that I didn't get a chance. You're supposed to, you kind of choose what you want to do with your life at a pretty young age. I mean, I know that I was like 4 years old when I decided I wanted to be a police officer. And it was all I wanted my entire childhood, adolescence, right up until the time I got the job at 23 years old. And even after I didn't have the job, I really, I wanted to get back into it, and it didn't work out that way. And I'm very, very, very happy where I am now. I love being a fucking mailman. I love it. But it does suck because there's so many other things that I would love to try. Like, this is going to sound dorky, and I don't care. I would love to try to see what it's like to be an engineer on a train, to be a train driver, for like a freight train. I always thought that seemed like a cool job. There's a bunch of jobs in the military that I wish I could have done. And I got to go to the military, but I essentially only had two jobs there. Field artillery was my primary job, and then I did military police overseas, which wasn't even like real police, wasn't even like being a real police officer. The difference between a military police in a combat zone and being an actual civilian police officer here in America, the difference is just night and day. Doesn't even do it justice. The difference is like Mercury and the sun. So it just kind of, I was thinking about how it kind of sucks that like you don't get to try everything. And I wish there was a way to try everything so that you could figure out, or maybe not even try everything, but at least try like a few things. Like you should be able to turn 18, graduate high school, and then there's like a 1 year period from like from graduation of high school for the next 365 days. You pick, you go down a list of all the different jobs. You pick fucking, let's go real low. Let's call it 4 jobs. You pick 4 jobs out of a list of all sorts of jobs, hundreds of different types of jobs. You go down a list of those 4 jobs and you say, these are the 4 jobs that I really think I'd like to look at. You spend 3 months doing each one of those jobs, right? So for me, it'd be like law enforcement, commercial airline pilot, train engineer, and fucking nuclear physicist. Let's go with those 4. You do, yeah, and then for 3 months, for the next 365 days, I get to do those jobs, all 3 of them, and maybe like a base pay type of thing. Like it doesn't matter if I'm the nuclear physicist or the fucking police officer. I'm gonna make $40,000. That's it. And then at the end of the year, I have to be like, okay, I liked this one the most out of those, or maybe I didn't fucking like any of them, and I want to. But now now I've used up my 4. I don't get another year to try 4 more jobs. But at least then like, okay, do I want to go to college for the next 4, 7 years, 10 years, however long it takes to get a degree in this thing, or can I get a job where I don't necessarily need a degree? I mean, most law enforcement agencies are like, we'd like it if you had high school, so I was just thinking about that. And speaking of nuclear power, the other thing that I was thinking of this week, I keep hearing that all these different manufacturers, all these vehicle manufacturers, are switching to straight up electric cars. Volvo, I think, has vowed, a bunch of them have been like by 2030, right? So I don't know which ones are like it's starting now or we're phasing them out over the next 10 years. But it seems like most of them are by 2030. So we'll just say all of them are by 2030 are going to be all electric. So Volvo, I think Ford and Chevy both said that like the majority of the cars that they sell, new cars that they sell, are going to be electric. Obviously Tesla has always been electric. There's a bunch of Toyota just introduced their newest electric car. There's a bunch of them that are all switching to electric vehicles. So there's a lot of dorks, a lot of neurodecelerated fucking older people who are like, oh, electric car, fucking, it's gay. Which, cars don't actually have a sexual preference. I can go fuck my truck right now in the tailpipe, and it's not going to be upset with me at all. But I definitely have at least one friend that is like, oh, fucking electric cars, they're stupid. You'll never hear a country song written about about an electric car. The arguments are so dumb, which is crazy. Okay, so like a gas-powered car, right? So you think of, on my personal Facebook page today, I posted a video from back in 2011 where this guy, I was in Kuwait, and this guy, there was like a car show, and it was all these Saudi princes who brought some of their favorite cars to this car show to show off just how much money they have from the oil-rich countries that we are there to defend. But this one guy brings a 2010 Ford Shelby Mustang. It was a Shelby Mustang GT500 Eleanor edition. So this thing is a 2010 Mustang built to look exactly like the 1969 GT500 in Gone in 60 Seconds. And this car was gorgeous. It was so beautiful. And leaving, the guy did a bunch of donuts in the parking lot, which was also pretty awesome. You can't beat the sound. You'll never tell me. See, and Joe brings up a great point. Joe just said, going back to the job thing, said, you want to operate the bridge, I'll swap with you. That seems like a cool job. Like, I would try that for a month. That seems like a cool job to try out. But anyway, so back to the car thing. You'll never you'll never beat the sound of a gas powered car, and even like a diesel. Some of the fucking diesel trucks sound awesome. They just sound, pardon my gender here, they sound manly. A nice sick 1970 Dodge Charger, with a really souped up engine, especially when they start, when they got that big giant belt and you can hear that whine of a supercharger. All of that stuff sounds awesome. But if you're looking for speed and acceleration, the electric cars are fucking murdering all these other cars. They are absolutely killing them. The Tesla that is like the most popular one that everyone sees, it's the Model S. It's a 4-door sedan and has what looks like a fucking iPad built into the dashboard. The thing can drive itself, so you can just be like, yeah, I want to go here. And then just as long as you touch the steering wheel, just kind of touch it just a little bit every 7 seconds, it'll continue to drive itself. That car will do like 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds, and has a top speed of over 160 miles an hour. So, these cars, the electric cars, are murdering these gas powered cars in that arena. But I think that there's also like, everyone looks at it and they're like, oh, I'm saving the environment. Well, not really. That power isn't free. It would take you probably 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe well over a month to charge it if you're just using solar power to charge it. So you got to plug it into your house or plug it into wherever your fueling station is. There's a lot of apartments now that are getting these fueling stations. So that power has to come from somewhere. That power isn't free. Maybe it's free, maybe it's saving you on gas in that aspect, but that power still has to come from somewhere. And it's usually coming from like a coal plant or, maybe a nuclear power plant or something like that, where they're still putting just as much pollution into the air that you think that you're saving. Now, there's another argument to be made that a lot of research that I've looked at, I really have, before you try to call me out on it, that suggests that gasoline, gasoline's a fossil fuel, we could be out of gasoline on this planet in 150 years. About 150 years, we would be completely out of gas. Which is a lot more than 10 years from now, everything switching to electric vehicles. But we could be out of gasoline. So, but who knows? Who knows what the future looks like? I wish I did. There's certainly parts of me that wish to live to 500 years old so that I can see what the future looks like. If there's going to be an apocalypse, if there's going to be a or are we going to go the opposite direction of an apocalypse? Are we going to go full Star Trek? Are we going to end up with a Starship Enterprise that travels around the universe, finding new planets and interacting with new species? I think that shit would be awesome. I would love to live to see that. The NASA just launched the first helicopter ever on Mars yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. Obviously it's just a drone, but still very cool to be exploring Mars, although it's so fucking late, like late in the game. Like in 1968, I think, Eric von Däniken, I think his name is, wrote a book called Chariots of the Gods, and it's almost depressing because at the end of the final chapter of the book, he's talking about how we're about to go to the moon and how exciting that is because, we're going to go to the moon and then we're going to populate the moon and then we're going to explore other planets within our own solar system. And then we're going to populate those planets and we're going to, and he's expecting this all to happen in the next 20 years. And and almost immediately, once we got to the moon, we were like, yeah, we're done. We don't need to we don't need to keep trying this. Like, I wish that there was more competition between America and China to get into space and explore other planets. Because if China were to say, I'm going to, China's going to go and put a man on Mars, I bet within 9 months America puts a man on Mars. 3 months to build a rocket and 6 months to get there. That's my bet. I would bet that America would want to beat China to get there. So, man, I thought this was going to be a short podcast, and here we are 40 minutes in already. I have essentially kicked bourbon out of my life. So when I got my tax return back in February, I bought 4 bottles of bourbon, and they weren't big. I think 3 of them were like 750 milliliter bottles, so like the normal size bottle that you see behind the bar, and then one was a 375, so it's half that size. I bought 4 bottles, and I finished them in about 4 weeks, right? Which is way too fast to finish 4 fucking bottles of bourbon. But I remember coming up on the end of those bottles thinking, like, I don't think I'm gonna buy more. I don't think that I'm gonna buy more bourbon. I'm just gonna try and I'm not quitting drinking bourbon. I'm certainly not quitting drinking. I'm sitting here with a Coors Light in my hand. But I have been saying for months, like, I need to revisit my relationship with bourbon, because I just, it goes down like water, and it shouldn't. That's not how bourbon should be. You should be able to drink it, and it should burn your throat, and you should be like, I need to take my time with this thing. I'd like to reestablish I've been saying for months, I want to reestablish my relationship with bourbon. So in the last 4 weeks, I've had 1 glass of bourbon, and it was when me and Stan and Jason did the cigar shop episode a little over 2 weeks ago now. I had 1 glass of bourbon that night, and I haven't had any since. So, yeah, I think that for the most part, it's out of my life. I don't think that I want to. Fuck around and find out. I don't want to go buy a bottle and be like, oh, can I responsibly drink this and just have 1 glass for the night? I don't want to try that. Not yet, anyways. I'd rather go a while. Maybe I'll save the whole 1 glass thing for the times when we do cigar bar episodes. But as it stands right now, like, I don't want to go to the liquor store and buy a bottle. Sometimes, like in the last 2 weeks or so, there have been times where I'm on my way to my place and I'm like, oh, I should pick up a bottle of bourbon and hang out at my place tonight and have a couple of bourbons while I watch a movie or whatever. And really, more than anything, I'm like, it's not even that I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to break the streak or anything like that. It really comes down to just laziness. It comes down to I don't feel like I stop at the store. It's going to cost me 15 minutes getting to my place, and I don't want that shit. So, so for the most part, it seems to be out of my life for now. And it helps a lot in the morning when it comes to getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go running or walking. Jumping into my next topic, which is the difference a year makes. A year ago, my life was so fucking different. I mean, longtime listeners of this show know how very different my life was a year ago, and I drank so fucking much. I bought with my tax return in 2020, I bought the big bottle of Knob Creek. I mean, this thing's fucking huge. It's like a 1.75 liter bottle. It's like $60 for the bottle. I bought that bottle, and I looked at it, and I thought, this is good. This is a huge bottle of bourbon. It should last me a month at least. And I finished that bottle in 1 week. And then I started really looking at how often am I going to the liquor store to buy bourbon. And I was going to the liquor store 2 or 3 times a week to buy a 750 milliliter bottle of Knob Creek. That is way too often to be buying 100 proof bourbon. So and here I am a year later, and I mean, that's one great thing that's changed, and now I'm in this incredibly healthy relationship, where we're both very reciprocal with each other and in so many different ways. And um, I changed jobs just a couple weeks ago with the post office, from bouncing around the post office to something that means more stability. There's been so many good things that have come out of the past year for me. And I remember, I love how this was supposed to be a comedy show, and the last few episodes have been like dark and heavy. And one day I'll get back to the funny stuff. But yeah, what the fuck was I gonna say? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. I was gonna talk about suicide. That's why I said that. Which the prevention line is 1-800-273-8255, which I haven't been giving out as much lately. But there was just so many dark nights where I felt very depressed, and those times are not as often as they used to be. There have been moments, but nothing like it used to be. And I remember years ago, before I like really addressed some of my issues, I used to always say, tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow, no matter how dark a day got and how bad things were, I always said tomorrow will be better. And tomorrow was almost never fucking better. The next day was almost as bad, if not worse, and it made me even more depressed. And then I said, you know what, fuck. As I changed my way of thinking there to be like, next year will be better. And that was back in 2014, and I just kept saying next year will be better. And every year since then has gotten progressively better. And this past year, from April 2020 to today, has been spectacular. So, and I hope that I can, I hope some of that translates into your life, you listeners. So those are just a couple examples of the difference a year can make. Excuse me. I went flying yesterday, and my instructor tells me that I am very close to being able to fly by myself, which was awesome to hear. We went up, we did some touch and go landings in Portsmouth, and I was able to nail them. I got to be a little bit careful watching my altitude, because when you take off and you get up into the traffic pattern, you're supposed to stay at a specific altitude, which is 1,100 feet above the ground. And a couple times I got a little high, and when I say a little high, I mean a really little. I got like 1,200 to 1,400 feet up, and that's too much. Once I get to 1,100, I should be able to maintain that 1,100 feet all the way around. It's like a big rectangle around the airport. You take off, you fly to one end of the rectangle, you do a short 90-degree turn and fly a short amount of time, and then do another 90-degree turn, and you fly all the way back down to the other end of the airport, do one more 90-degree turn, and then one more 90-degree turn after that, and then you're flying back to land, and you touch down on the runway, and then you apply power, and you take back off. So that's flying in the traffic pattern. That's like a flying for dummies 101. What does it mean flying in the traffic pattern? So it's just flying this rectangle around the airport. So we did like 3 or 4 of those in Portsmouth, and then we left Portsmouth and went over towards Rochester, New Hampshire, where there's another airport that's unmanned. So it's really just a landing strip, and did a few landings there. And that was a little more squirrely there, because the winds were a lot different in Rochester than they were in Portsmouth. In Portsmouth, they were relatively calm, and the landings were pretty easy. In Rochester, they were like, whoa, we got kicked around quite a bit. So, there's my mate telling me she's on her way to come see me. So yeah, that's where I'm at with flying. My instructor tells me that just a few more lessons and I'll be able to fly by myself, which is going to be awesome. But that's really just the beginning of it. He says I'm about a third of the way to my private license. But this next 2/3, after I can fly by myself, this next 2/3 is all about me flying by myself, and like I can't take passengers with me or anything like that. So, which kind of sucks, but whatever. It's been 6 months and I've made it a third, so figure if all goes right, maybe a year from now, I'll be able to have my private license, which will be pretty awesome. I'm excited to take Rochelle up and around New England and do a little flying around here with her. So that'll be cool. And speaking of flying, I did not intend for a bunch of these topics to mold right into the next. But my friend Scott, who is an actual pilot, he's a legit pilot. Like he was the one. I think I talked about it on an episode not long ago, a month or two ago, where he's the one that I was saying like, I didn't know you could do this. He went to college to be a pilot. Like I didn't know that was a thing. If I didn't know that was a thing when I was 18, I might have been more interested in going to college. But he went to college, and much like anyone else who's ever gone to college, he went and he did his normal classes, but part of his normal classes was learning how to fly and actually going up in airplanes and flying around. And then he flew private jets. So, but anyways, he texted me yesterday and, he asked me if he said that he's thinking about starting a podcast and asked if I could meet up with him to kind of talk about what that's all about. And I'll tell you all some of the things that I intend to tell him, which is, do you have the expendable income to drop about $100 on equipment? Can you possibly afford the equivalent of 2 Red Bulls a month to pay for hosting? Do you possess the mental fortitude to sit alone, naked in a basement, talking to probably just yourself? Those are some of those are some of the things about podcasting. Really, it really is. It's not much in equipment. The microphone that I'm using right now, plus the arm that it's mounted to, plus the camera that is going right now. All of that in total probably cost about $100, give or take. And the hosting for this, I pay $20 a month to host this show on a website. So really it comes down to a few other things. Firstly, like, you can't go into this shit with high expectations. I recently found out that a show that I listen to that gets about 4 million downloads a month. 4 million people listen to this show every month. Even if, because the show only posts twice a month, it's a bi-weekly podcast. Even that, even by that math, you're talking about 2 million people listening to your show every month. And he has advertisers just like I do, but his commercials, if you will, are structured. He has a Patreon that people are paying out of 2 million people. 1% of that number is 20,000. If 1% of his listeners are Patreon subscribers, then that's 20,000 people paying $5 a month. That's a lot of fucking money. That's $100,000 a month on Patreon. Now, I don't know what Patreon takes away. I don't know how that works. I don't have a Patreon. I highly doubt that I ever will. It's way too much work for me. Jason from Shit Happens just started a Patreon. And I mean, he's giving out stickers and t-shirts and fucking all sorts of shit. Yeah, but there's also, like, if you have a Patreon, then there's an expectation. There's you need to have your episodes out at a specific time every week. I don't like that. I don't like being beholden to this. I love to do it. I love to get on and talk to everyone. and have listeners and all that shit, but I do not. I have no interest in being like, oh, it's fucking this time of the week, I have to do it. I don't have a choice. I like the freedom to be like, you know what, I don't fucking feel like it this week, or even more so to be like, I don't fucking have time. I don't have shit to talk about, so I'm skipping it this week. It is if you wanted to start a podcast and you think that you're going to, replace your current job with a podcast, then it is a full-time job. Welcome to your new full-time job, because you're probably going to have to make your podcast daily to create that ad revenue and get those downloads. You're going to have to, whatever your topic is, whether it's true crime or just bullshit like I do here, just talking about whatever it is you're going to talk about. If you're going to have guests, if you're the type of, if you're like, I want to start a podcast that's going to have guests, have a new guest on every week or whatever, you're going to have to line up those guests and figure out, coordinate with that and figure out how to get them on and come up with reasons for them to want to be on. And to make it so much worse, it's funny to me, the OnlyFans stuff that's going on. This is what's funny to me, is that I months ago, long before this documentary came out, I remember seeing that there were, I can't remember if it was just like the normal everyday girl on OnlyFans, or if it was porn stars, or maybe it was both. But one of those groups was pissed, like. And when I say group, it wasn't like a single person. One of those entire groups was pissed about celebrities getting on OnlyFans because essentially they were taking revenue away from them. Right? So if it's the girl next door who has an OnlyFans account and she's charging $20 a month for you to subscribe to her OnlyFans, and then someone like Bella Thorne or fucking Cash Me Outside girl or whatever gets on there and they're charging $50 a month. Well, Joe Nobody is gonna have to think to himself, all right, I can spend $50 a month for Cash Me Outside girl, or $20 a month for Girl Next Door, or both for $70, and I don't want to spend the $70. I'd rather just subscribe to one, for the month or whatever, right? So the point is that this group was pissed off that these OnlyFans people are like taking away revenue from them. And to that I say, welcome to the fucking world of being a fucking indie podcaster, of being someone who just started a podcast like I did and does this thing every week, and fucking everyone on the goddamn earth. There's 2 million podcasts right now. There are 2 million podcasts. The math on that is that 1 out of 166 people, 1 out of every 166 people that you encounter has a podcast. 1 out of 166 has a podcast. All right. So, and that's people like me trying to compete for the attention of listeners, when those listeners also have options like Tom Segura, Bill Burr, Joe Rogan, Dr. Drew, all these other, fucking Will Ferrell started a podcast fucking 3 or 4 years ago, started a podcast as Anchorman. So, I mean, yeah, that's something, you have to go into it with extremely low expectations, or be prepared for this. If you think that you can start a podcast and it's going to become your new job, be prepared for this job to be an 80-hour-a-week job, for you to make the equivalent of probably whatever you make right now at your normal 40-hour job. Finding something that no one else is doing is pretty much the key. But there is a podcast for everything. Tell me what you're interested in. There's a podcast for it. Chris Barrant, X Games snowmobile Champion, he has a podcast about snowmobiling, about building snowmobiles. Roe has shown me at least 2 softball podcasts. There's podcasts for flying. There's podcasts about computers. There's podcasts about Samsung phones. There's podcasts about Apple phones. There's podcasts, obviously, there's hundreds of, no, that's wrong. There's thousands, if not tens of thousands of different comedy podcasts. There's podcasts about your fucking pets. There's podcasts about relationships. There is a podcast for everything you could ever want, which is why I think that podcast is going to replace radio. Like, I haven't listened to the radio. Like, I used to listen to, there's a show here in southern New England called Greg in the Morning Buzz. It's a 4-hour radio show in the morning. I used to listen to that show religiously every day. I have not listened to the radio in 5 years, maybe 6 years. I haven't listened to the radio. It's been strictly podcast. It's been, if I want to listen to music, I get on my Amazon Music because I can listen to essentially anything that I want to. I have never once looked for a song and been like, oh, I can't find it on Amazon Music. And maybe the once in a while that I can't find it on Amazon Music, I can find it on fucking YouTube or Spotify. I do not need the radio anymore. Radio is so fucking dead. So, yeah, anyways, if you want to start a podcast, just be prepared to work. So, all right, bye.